never known. And we'll chase the night, race all of these broken dreams in flight.
This is not just an ordinary story. Let's take a look at the story behind COVID-19. One of the most deadliest virus among others, and maybe the most fatal in the history of the world. What are the things you should know about this killer virus? Coronavirus is a contagious disease. The disease spreads from one person to another. But how is the virus can be contagious? COVID-19 transmissions occurs via droplets transmission, contact transmission, and aerosol transmission. Droplets transmission occurs when respiratory droplets produced when an infected person sneezes are inhaled by a person nearby. Aerosol transmission happens when respiratory droplets containing the virus mix into the air and then inhaled. Contact transmission happens when a person touches contaminated surface and then their mouth, nose, or eyes. This contagious disease resulted outbreak. The virus rapidly spread, resulting in an epidemic throughout China, followed by increasing number of cases around the world. On January 30, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 outbreak a global health emergency. On March 11, 2020, more than a month after, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. Its first such designation since declaring H1N1 influenza a pandemic in 2009. A recent outbreak in India that tallied 300 to 400,000 cases every day was alarming. Bodies of dead people are being buried everywhere, and a new mutation of COVID variants was discovered and considered a highly transmissible one. The COVID outbreak brought us risk. Imagine the risk you're taking when you always go outside. When you do these things, when you're not following the safety protocols. You're not just putting your life in danger, moreover, your loved ones. The risk of the virus can be traced to the way we overlook. Despite of the early warnings and the lesson we learned from previous pandemics, our preparedness to handle this pandemic was put to a major test. What if we give a rapid response from the moment the virus was reported? Maybe the threat and danger can be minimized. When we overlooked the virus, it created bigger problems, and worst case, it became a nightmare. The nightmare of being confined and not being able to see your loved one. The nightmare of unexpected and premature deaths. The nightmare to die alone. The nightmare and trauma experienced by the victim and the family, all caused by this pandemic. We are all praying and hoping to end this nightmare and conquer our feeling of being afraid. COVID-19 pandemic has had a major effect on our lives. COVID increases our fear and worries we are afraid of. Danger and contamination. Worries about our life and livelihood. Afraid for our safety and security. We are afraid to the danger brought by COVID and knowing every one of us vulnerable. Who are the most vulnerable? Our frontliners who carries most of the battle for us against this war. To our frontliners, your efforts, sacrifices, and contributions is appreciated. Thank you, our heroes, our elderly, our senior citizens. We got to take extra care of them to prolong their lifespan. Those people with comorbidities, suffering from different diseases. And everyone doesn't have any exemption to the virus. People who are vulnerable and often the victim of this virus and they needed to be isolated. Keep someone who is infected with the virus away from others, even in their home. Quarantine. Keep someone who might have been exposed to the virus from others. Stay home for 14 days after your last contact with a person who has COVID-19. When we isolate the victim of COVID-19, our healthcare system was being tested for its readiness. Are you ready? Or are we ready? Level of preparedness, alert, and response to identify, manage, and care should be increased. Assess risk and implement rapidly the necessary measures to reduce COVID transmission. What are the learnings we can derive from COVID that will be valuable and we can use in the future if ever we'll be facing the same or another pandemic?
Sana wag po wag. Sana wag po wag.
Our readiness to face this pandemic left us a lot of questions and uncertainty. Life is filled with uncertainty and worries about the future because of the pandemic. We want to feel safe and have a sense of control over our lives and well-being. Every unpleasant surprises, unexpected events, and having to face uncertainty in life, it helps us to learn to adapt, overcome challenges, and increase our resiliency. It helps us to grow as a person. We are uncertain up to this day how many people will get sick. There are a lot of people getting sick every day because of COVID. These are the signs and symptoms that you have the virus. Currently, our country has 1.25 million cases and 21,300 more deaths. As authorities in 220 countries and territories have reported, about 172 million cases and 3.7 million deaths since China reported its first case to the World Health Organization in December of 2019. Shout out loud, sending our love, our sincere wishes for speedy recovery and heartfelt condolences to all affected by COVID-19. Coronavirus means contagious, outbreak, risk, overlook, nightmare, afraid, vulnerable, isolate, readiness, uncertainty, sick. Coronavirus means Shout out loud to Mr. Somebody for having the idea to redefine and stop COVID-19. Together, we can make our Earth a better place and beat COVID-19. It's Mr. Noman signing out. See you next time.
Under pressure, no more time. Can we make a move? Overthinking, you and I.
Never known it will chase the night.